The first red flag should have been when Cassie started putting her phone face down during dinner. I mean, who does that? Unless they're hiding something, right? But I'm apparently the kind of guy who notices these things and then talks himself out of trusting his own eyes. "You're being paranoid, John," I'd tell myself while she giggled at texts she wouldn't show me. "She's probably just planning your birthday surprise or something." Yeah, some surprise. I should have known better when she started working late 3 nights a week. Cassie had been a receptionist at Brennan and Associates for 2 years, and suddenly she's pulling overtime? The woman who used to complain about staying 5 minutes past 5 was now helping with important client files until 9 p.m. "It's just temporary," she'd say, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror before heading out. "Mr. Voss really appreciates dedicated employees." Dexter Voss, her 43-year-old boss with the BMW, and the divorce that cost him half his practice. I'd met him twice at office Christmas parties, the kind of guy who calls everyone champ and tells the same golf story 3 times in one conversation. The second red flag was when she stopped complaining about work entirely. Cassie loved to complain. It was practically her hobby. But suddenly, work was great, and Mr. Voss was really helping her develop professionally. I wanted to ask what kind of professional development required working dinners at the Marriott downtown, but I'm apparently the kind of boyfriend who bites his tongue and hopes he's wrong. The third red flag came last Tuesday. We were sitting over cartons of lukewarm Chinese takeout when she set down her chopsticks, met my eyes, and dropped the kind of line that doesn't sound like much until you replay it later. "Maybe I'm not ready to settle down," she said lightly. "Maybe staying single forever isn't the worst thing, compared to forcing something with the wrong person." The words were casual. The look in her eyes wasn't. I set down my chopsticks. We'd been together 3 years. We'd talked about rings, kids, the whole package. Now she's giving me the "it's not you, it's me" speech over lo mein. "Are you breaking up with me?" I asked. She laughed, actually laughed. "God, no. I'm just saying, if you're thinking about proposing or whatever, maybe we should pump the brakes. I'm finally hitting my stride professionally, you know." I nodded and said, "Okay, because what else do you say to that?" But something in her tone, the way she said, "whatever," when talking about marrying me, that stuck like a splinter. The fourth and final red flag came Thursday morning when I was looking for my phone charger and found the hotel receipts in her purse. 3 receipts, 3 different dates, all from the Marriott downtown, all charged to my credit card, the one I'd given her for emergencies. Room service charges, bar tabs, 2-night stays. And there, clear as daylight on the last receipt, guest D. Voss. I sat there on our bed, holding the evidence of my girlfriend's betrayal, and you know what my first thought was? At least she's not cheating with some random guy. At least it's someone with a steady job. Yeah, I'm that pathetic. But then I kept reading. The bar charges were for 2 people, whiskey sours and craft beer, her favorites. The room service was breakfast for 2, ordered at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday when she'd told me she had food poisoning and needed to stay home from work. I took pictures of everything with my phone, put the receipts back exactly where I found them, and went to work like nothing happened. That's when the sarcastic voice in my head really kicked into high gear. The one that's kept me sane through 3 years of Cassie's bullshit and 34 years of everyone underestimating me. So let me get this straight, I thought while operating the press at Hartwell Manufacturing. She's using my credit card to pay for hotel rooms where she's screwing her boss, and then coming home to tell me she's not ready for commitment. That's some premium-grade irony right there. The beauty of working a machine press is that it gives you time to think, and boy, did I think. I thought about how she'd been dressing nicer for work lately. New dresses, new perfume, all paid for with money from our joint account. I thought about how she'd suddenly developed opinions about wine and started pronouncing bruschetta with an accent. I thought about how she'd stopped wanting to have intimacy, but blamed it on being stressed from work. Most of all, I thought about the velvet ring box I'd hidden in my sock drawer 3 months ago. The engagement ring had cost me $6,000. $6,000 I'd saved by working double shifts and eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch. I'd picked it out based on a Pinterest board she'd shown me, complete with detailed notes about cut and clarity. Guess she's getting a different kind of clarity now, the voice in my head observed. When I got home that night, Cassie was in the shower, humming some song I didn't recognize. Her phone was on the kitchen counter, buzzing with texts. I didn't look. I'm not that guy. But I didn't have to look, because the preview messages were right there on the lock screen. Dexter, can't wait to see you tomorrow night. Dexter, wear the red dress. Dexter, he doesn't deserve you anyway. I made dinner and acted normal. When she came downstairs in her bathrobe, smiling and refreshed, I handed her a plate of spaghetti and said, "Good day at work?" "Oh, you know, same old stuff." She twirled her fork and took a bite. "Actually, I might need to work late again tomorrow. Big client presentation." I nodded. "That's great that Mr. Voss trusts you with important projects." She smiled. "Yeah, he says I have a lot of potential." "I bet he does." After dinner, we watched TV like a normal couple. She curled up against me on the couch, and I played with her hair while she scrolled through Instagram. It was almost like old times, except for the part where I knew she was texting her married boss about wearing the red dress I'd bought her for her birthday. Around 10 p.m., she yawned and said she was going to bed early. "I'll be up in a minute," I said. "Just want to finish this episode." She kissed my forehead. "Don't stay up too late, babe." After she went upstairs, I sat there in the dark, listening to her move around our bedroom. The bedroom where we'd planned our future. The bedroom where she'd modeled that red dress before deciding it was too fancy for anywhere we go. Well played, Cassie, I thought. Smooth move. Subtle enough to sound casual, sharp enough to cut deep. But here's the thing about underestimating people like me. We notice everything, and we remember everything. And when you push us too far, we don't get mad. We get creative. I pulled out my phone and started making a list. Friday morning, Cassie left for work in the red dress. She kissed my cheek and said she might be late because of the presentation. "Good luck," I said. "I'll probably be at Murphy's with Jake after work, so don't worry if I'm not home." She smiled. "Have fun, babe. Don't drink too much." The funny thing was, I really was planning to meet Jake Murphy at his bar. Jake's been my friend since high school, and he's got the kind of moral flexibility that comes in handy when you need advice on how to handle a cheating girlfriend without going to prison. But first, I had some research to do. I called in sick to work, first time in 2 years, and spent the morning playing detective. The beauty of sharing a credit card is that I could see everything she'd been buying. New lingerie from Victoria's Secret, dinner at restaurants I'd never been to, a weekend at some spa in Indianapolis that she'd told me was a girls' trip with Melissa. Except I called Melissa. Turns out she'd been in Vegas with her sister that weekend. Strike two, sweetheart. Next, I drove to Brennan and Associates. I didn't go in, I'm not stupid, but I sat in the parking lot and watched. Sure enough, around noon, Dexter Voss walked out with Cassie. They got into his BMW and drove toward downtown. I followed at a distance, feeling like a character in some shitty cable movie. They went to lunch at Romano's, the Italian place where we'd had our second anniversary dinner. Through the window, I could see them holding hands across the table. Our table, I realized, the same damn table. That's when the rage started building. Not the hot, explosive kind that gets you arrested. The cold, calculating kind that gets you even. I took pictures through the window with my phone's zoom. Nothing pornographic, just two people who were obviously more than colleagues. Insurance, I told myself. Documentation. After lunch, they went back to the office. I drove home and started phase 2 of my investigation. Social media. Cassie's Instagram was locked down, but she'd been tagged in photos by her co-workers. There was one from the office Christmas party where she was standing very close to Dexter, his hand on her lower back. Another from some work happy hour where they were sharing a drink with 2 straws. Jesus, Cassie. Could you be any more obvious? But the real gold mine was LinkedIn. Professional networking sites are where people let their guard down because they think nobody's paying attention to the personal stuff. Dexter had posted about celebrating a successful quarter with his amazing team and tagged Cassie and 2 other employees. But in the photo, he was only looking at one person. I screenshotted everything. By the time I got to Murphy's that evening, I had a folder on my phone with about 50 pieces of circumstantial evidence. Jake took one look at my face and poured me a whiskey without asking what I wanted. "Let me guess," he said. "You found out about Cassie." I stared at him. "You knew?" Jake shrugged. "Suspected. She came in here last week with some older guy in a suit. They were affectionate." "And you didn't tell me?" "Would you have believed me?" Fair point. I probably would have accused him of trying to sabotage my relationship out of jealousy or some shit. That's what guys do when they're not ready to face the truth. I showed him the receipts, the photos, everything. Jake whistled low. "Damn, John, she's not even trying to hide it." "That's what pisses me off the most," I said. "She thinks I'm too stupid to figure it out." Jake refilled my glass. "So what's the play? You gonna dump her?" I thought about it. The smart thing would be to pack my stuff and move out. Clean break, no drama, start fresh somewhere else. But the more I thought about it, the more that felt like letting her win. "No," I said finally. "I'm gonna make her dump me." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "Think about it. If I confront her, she'll just deny everything until I show her the evidence. Then she'll cry, apologize, promise to change, maybe even blame me for not being exciting enough or some shit. Either way, I'm the bad guy who snooped through her stuff. And if you just leave? Then she gets to tell everyone I abandoned her. Poor Cassie, all alone after giving me the best years of her life. Plus, she keeps the apartment and I lose my security deposit." Jake nodded slowly. "But if she dumps you, then she's the bitch who threw away a 3-year relationship, and I get to keep my dignity." It was a good plan, a smart plan, but it required patience, and I've never been good at patience. That's when Jake suggested something that changed everything. "You know," he said, "there's a third option." "Yeah? You could let her think she's getting away with it, right up until the moment she realizes she's not." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" Jake smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "I mean, what if you played along? What if you let her think you're still planning to propose? Let her get comfortable, let her guard down, and then, when she's expecting a ring, I give her something else." Exactly. The idea was beautiful in its simplicity. Cassie thought she was so smart, so subtle. She thought I was the same gullible idiot who'd been buying her excuses for months. But what if I wasn't? What if I was 10 steps ahead of her? What if, for once in my life, I was the one with all the cards? I finished my whiskey and stood up. "I need to go home and think about this." "Take your time," Jake said. "But remember, revenge is a dish best served cold." "Where'd you hear that?" "Kill Bill." Of course. I drove home with my mind racing. Cassie was already there, curled up in sweats, half watching some Netflix series, looking every bit the picture of a lazy evening. You'd never guess she'd just returned from her afternoon meeting at the Marriott. "How was your night?" she asked, without looking away from the screen. "Good," Jake says hi. "That's nice." I sat down next to her and put my arm around her shoulders. She snuggled against me, all warm and familiar, and for a second I almost forgot she was cheating on me. Almost. "Hey, Cass?" "I've been thinking about what you said the other day, about not rushing into marriage." She tensed slightly. "Yeah?" "You're right. We should take our time, make sure we're both ready." She relaxed. "I'm glad you understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly. But I want you to know," I continued, "that when the time is right, I'm going to make it special. Really special." She looked up at me and smiled. "You're sweet, John. That's why I love me. Yeah, that's why I love you." "No, sweetheart. That's why you think you can use me." I kissed her forehead and said, "I love you too." It wasn't entirely a lie. I did love her. Past tense. But love and revenge aren't mutually exclusive. Sometimes they're the same thing. Saturday morning, Cassie announced she was going shopping with her sister. Since her sister lived in Phoenix and we lived in Ohio, I took this to mean she was spending the day with Dexter. "Take your time," I said. "I've got some stuff to take care of anyway." After she left, I called my cousin Tony. Tony's a divorce lawyer, which makes him an expert on how relationships end badly. I explained the situation, leaving out the part about planning revenge, and asked what my legal options were. Well, he said, if you're not married, it's pretty straightforward. You can kick her out whenever you want, assuming the apartment's in your name. It is. And the joint bank account? Both our names, but I put in about 80% of the money. You can close it and withdraw everything, but she might have a claim on half. Depends on how vindictive she wants to get. Oh, Tony, you have no idea how vindictive people can get. What about the credit card, the one she's been using? If it's your card and she's just an authorized user, you can cancel it any time. If it's truly joint, it's trickier. I checked online. It was my card. She was just an authorized user. Strike 3. Thanks, Tony, just exploring my options. Everything okay, John? Yeah, just, planning for the future. After I hung up, I made a few more calls. My landlord, to confirm I could remove someone from the lease with 30 days' notice. My bank, to understand the process for closing joint accounts. My insurance company, to see how quickly I could remove her from my car insurance. I wasn't ready to pull any triggers yet, but I wanted to know where all the landmines were buried. Then I did something that felt a little crazy, but also completely necessary. I went engagement ring shopping. Not for Cassie, for the show. I drove to 3 different jewelry stores and asked to see their most expensive engagement rings. I took pictures of the display cases, had helpful sales associates explain the difference between clarity grades, and made a big show of comparing prices. At the 3rd store, I actually bought something. A beautiful blue velvet ring box, empty. Cost me $12. Gift wrapping? The clerk asked. No thanks, this one's special. I want to present it myself. When I got home, Cassie was in the kitchen making dinner. She seemed more relaxed than she'd been in weeks. How was shopping? I asked. Good. Found a few things. She gestured to a bag from Nordstrom. How was your day? Productive. I ran some errands, made some calls, took care of some future planning. She smiled. That sounds mysterious. Maybe a little. That night, for the first time in weeks, Cassie suddenly seemed invested again. Almost too much. Her eagerness felt less like affection and more like she was compensating for something. Or maybe celebrating it. Later, when she drifted to sleep against my chest, I just stared at the ceiling, piecing things together. Timing, I reminded myself, was everything. The real art of revenge wasn't in anger or impulse. It was in patience. You wait. You let them believe they're untouchable. You strike only when they're at their highest, their most comfortable, their least prepared for the fall. For Cassie, that moment would be when she thought she was getting everything she wanted. Sunday morning, I woke up early and went for a run. When I got back, Cassie was on the phone in the kitchen, speaking in hushed tones. I know, she was saying. But it's complicated. No, he hasn't said anything. I think he suspects, but he's not. Well, what do you expect me to do? I can't just, okay, tonight. But this has to be the last time for a while. She hung up when she saw me. Work? I asked, grabbing a water bottle from the fridge. Yeah, crisis with a client file. On Sunday? Legal emergencies don't recognize weekends. Neither does adultery, apparently. Well, I said, I hope Mr. Voss appreciates how dedicated you are. Something flickered in her eyes. He does. That evening, she left for her emergency, wearing the black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. I waited until I heard her car pull away, then got to work. I opened our laptop and logged into her Gmail account. I'd known her password for 2 years. We'd set up our streaming services together and she'd never changed it. Classic mistake. Her inbox was a goldmine of evidence. Emails from Dexter going back 6 months, starting professional and getting increasingly personal. Hotel confirmation numbers, restaurant reservations, and most damning of all, a thread from 3 weeks ago where she'd forwarded him screenshots of texts I'd sent her. Cassie, look what I have to deal with at home. Dexter, poor baby. You deserve so much better. Cassie, I know. I'm just waiting for the right time to end it. Dexter, soon, I promise. Once my divorce is final, we can be together properly. Cassie, what if he proposes before then? Dexter, just say yes for now. We can figure it out later. I read that exchange 3 times before it fully sank in. She wasn't planning to say yes to me. She was planning to say yes to her alibi. My ring would have been her perfect camouflage, slipped on in public while she slipped away in private. And when his divorce papers finally cleared, that's when I'd get cleared too. Right out of her life. Well, sweetheart, two can play that game. I screenshotted everything and emailed the images to a new Gmail account I created just for this purpose. Then I cleared the browser history and put the laptop back exactly where I'd found it. When Cassie got home around midnight, I was in bed, pretending to be asleep. She slipped into the bathroom to shower, washing off the smell of another man, and climbed into bed next to me. "John?" she whispered. I didn't answer. She curled up against my back, and I felt her relax into sleep. Enjoy it while you can, I thought, because very soon you're going to have a very rude awakening. But I wasn't ready yet. I had one more card to play, and the timing had to be perfect. Monday morning, I called Jake and asked him to meet me for lunch. We went to a diner across town where nobody we knew would see us. "I need a favor," I said. "Name it. I need you to witness something, and I need you to have your phone ready to record." Jake grinned. "This sounds like it's going to be fun. For us, maybe. For her, not so much." I explained my plan. It was simple, elegant, and completely legal. Most importantly, it would give Cassie exactly what she deserved, a public humiliation that matched the private one she'd been inflicting on me. "When?" Jake asked. "Thursday night. I'll text you the details." "John?" "Yeah?" "Remind me never to cheat on anyone you care about." Too late for that advice, but I appreciate the sentiment. Tuesday and Wednesday passed in a blur of normal domesticity. Cassie went to work, came home, acted like a loving girlfriend. I went to work, came home, acted like a trusting boyfriend. But underneath the surface, I was a man preparing for war. Thursday afternoon, I texted Cassie. "Special dinner tonight. Dress nice. 7 p.m. at Romano's." She texted back immediately. "What's the occasion?" You'll see. I could practically feel her excitement through the phone. This was it, the moment she'd been waiting for. The proposal that would give her cover to keep cheating until her boyfriend's divorce came through. "Sorry to disappoint you, baby, but this is going to be a very different kind of special dinner." I spent the afternoon making final preparations. I called Romano's and reserved our usual table, the same one where she'd been having lunch dates with Dexter. I picked up my dry cleaning and put on my best suit. I even bought flowers. Because if you're going to destroy someone's life, you might as well do it with style. At 6:45, I picked up the blue velvet box from my dresser drawer and slipped it into my jacket pocket. Showtime. Romano's was perfect. I arrived 5 minutes early and made sure our table had a clear view of the entire restaurant. Jake was already at the bar with his phone ready. Cassie arrived wearing an emerald green dress I'd never seen before, practically glowing with excitement. "This is so romantic," she said, reaching for my hand after we ordered wine. "What's the occasion?" I pulled out the blue velvet box and set it on the table. Her eyes went wide. "Cassie, I've been thinking about our relationship, about trust, honesty, and being faithful to someone who trusts you with their heart." She was staring at the box like pure gold. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots. Hotel receipts from the Marriott downtown, all charged to my credit card. The color drained from her face. "Dexter Voss," I continued. "The guy you've been sneaking around with while feeding me lines about not being ready to commit. The same one who suggested you nod along to my proposal, just a convenient placeholder, until his divorce papers cleared. John, I can explain. You used my credit card to book those hotel rooms, the ones you didn't exactly spend alone, and you shared my private messages, turning them into some inside joke for the two of you." She was sobbing now. "John, I love you." "No, you don't." I opened the velvet box and turned it toward her. It was empty. "Here's your proposal, Cassie. Here's what 3 years of your lies are worth." Around us, other diners started staring. "I closed our joint account this morning. Canceled your card. Your stuff is in boxes by the front door." "You can't do that." "Oh, and I forwarded copies of all your emails to Dexter's wife this afternoon." That's when she started screaming. "You fucking asshole! I gave you the best 3 years of my life." "You gave me 3 years of lies. There's a difference." She grabbed her wine glass and threw it at me. I ducked, and it shattered against the wall. The manager appeared. "Ma'am, you need to leave." Security escorted her out while she screamed threats. Jake appeared at my side, grinning. "Did you get it all?" He held up his phone. "Every second." In the parking lot, Cassie was crying in her car, probably calling Dexter. "So what now?" Jake asked. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. "Now we go get a real drink, and you can show me that video." I looked back at Cassie's car one last time. "Game over, sweetheart, and I won. Heart 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 and